Safe to say that as an industry, we've made a great deal of progress in quantifying our carbon emissions in the last few years. We understand more now than ever before where our emissions are occurring in the programmatic ecosystem, and we're starting to take steps to drive some change and mitigation. But there's still one main challenge that we're contending with across the industry, and that is broad adoption. This is something that we've been contending with at Mobsta for the last few years in bringing our customers on this journey with us, is that, understandably, without much evidence out there of the impact, brands are somewhat hesitant to make changes to their media plans simply to reduce carbon without knowing what the impact is on real business metrics. So we made that our mission. We needed to demonstrate that this approach not only works, but it wins. We wanted to show that reducing carbon in your campaign activation and planning isn't just an ethically right decision, it's a commercially sensible and commercially impactful one. So I suppose I should introduce who we are. For those who don't know, Mobsta, we're a B Corp certified media partner, and we place brands in perfect moments with multi-channel digital activation fueled by behavioural location data intelligence. What does that mean, really? We use precise location-centric data sets and audience modelling to help brands find where, when, and how to engage with their audiences. Essentially taking location as context. Our priority as a key media partner is obviously to deliver relevance and impact with our campaigns. But as a B Corp business, we always aim to do it through a sustainable lens. We really aim to be decarbonising with everything that we do, to have that element of responsibility in what we do. And how do we do that? Well, Greenlight, that's the name of our in-house carbon calculator and carbon measurement tool that helps us make those decisions using an in-depth understanding of those end-to-end emissions so that we can make the right decisions in our campaign planning and activation to reduce carbon in our campaigns. That was our way of taking action. But before we could take action, we had to go on a journey of understanding, of course. So around 4 years ago now, we embarked on this mission to first of all understand where our emissions are occurring, not just in our business and where we could make change in our business, but in how we ran our campaigns and across the industry. One thing that we learned in that mission is that what the industry was looking at the time was mainly focusing on what we call end user device. So that is effectively where an ad runs on a screen, what's the energy intensity of that screen, and that's what people were measuring and looking at and taking account for. But for us, we figured that that discounts more than 85% of emissions, particularly in programmatic. In that middle section there, we talk about data transfer, and that is essentially platforms communicating with one another, tags firing, and ad passing through all these different places before it's ever seen by a user. So in order for us to take full account for what we were delivering, we needed to build out this calculator that takes account for all of this, end to end. So starting with our operational overheads, what it means to run our business, all the way through to that ad being delivered. And what's the result of this? Well, we implement what we call carbon curation. This means that we can take the right decisions in building out our campaigns from end to end to ensure that we are reducing throughout. Not sacrificing impact, but reducing carbon. All the way from better standard business practices, so things like our office space and energy use and how often we travel and how we travel, and the bank we use. Precision in targeting, so investing in data sets that mean that we can reduce impression wastage, which naturally reduces carbon, through an understanding of all the different formats that we run. As an omni-channel business, we run loads of different formats and platforms and lengths and sizes. Understanding what the difference is with all of those so that we can make the right decisions when building a plan, and how those ads are delivered. So whether we can utilize technology like streaming technology to naturally reduce the emissions in an ad when it's delivered. All great for us, you're probably thinking, good for you, Mobsta. But it isn't enough. We feel that too. You know, we obviously take account for that ourselves and we bring customers on that journey, but it isn't enough for us. As a B Corp business, we want to drive industry change. We want to convince everybody to be doing the same. Whether you're running campaigns with us or your other chosen partners, we want this to be part of that conversation. So we knew in order to do that, it isn't good enough for us to just go out talking about reducing carbon. We had to prove that it was commercially impactful to do that too. Income, Heineken, and inches. So Heineken are a brand who, like Dan says here, our key client, they've been focusing on this approach for the last few years. They've been trying to drive change and carbon reduction through their campaign activation. It's a big focus for them as a business, and they've had that same question in their minds. What's the actual impact of this? We can measure our carbon, we can make steps to reduce it, but are we sacrificing results here? Are we impacting our sales or our brand position in doing that? So they became the perfect partner for us to set out and demonstrate this. The brief, really in short, when we found the perfect campaign to test this with Inches, was make the campaign as sustainable as the product. So those of you who don't know, Inches is Heineken's champion brand when it comes to sustainability. They're a sustainable business as a whole, but Inches is brewed from the outset with a focus on sustainability. So they're naturally perfect partner for us here when we wanted to put this to the test and really help demonstrate what the impact of these changes were. At the same time, we couldn't make it just about carbon reduction. We had to still deliver that same level of impact, deliver their strong creative in the way that they have been in the past, and make it relevant to their audience to be able to drive those business results. Fundamentally, we had to transform the approach. We had to combine that precise data-fueled targeting to ensure that we could still deliver that relevance and that key message and deliver the creative effectively. But we had to then deliver it on a uniquely curated media plan where we built it out with carbon reduction at the heart. So the steps in doing that. First and foremost, we had to ensure that Heineken could understand that location was the best way for them to do this. It's a really strong way to connect with audiences. Moving away from things like cookies and IDs, those direct one-to-one targeting currencies, we had to ensure that Heineken were aware that this is a really impactful way to connect with communities, essentially. And communities are a really strong indicator of behavior. Within that, we curate a bespoke audience approach to ensure that using those precise data sets that we have, we can reach the right audience for them to deliver impact across the whole campaign. Carbon aside, we need to ensure that we're reaching people who are going to consider this product. So cider drinkers and those who are already showing behaviors and decisions that align with sustainability. Then we built out a curated media plan with, like I said earlier, carbon reduction at the heart, but impact still front of mind. So that is using our tool, Greenlight, to pick the right formats to deliver that creative and the right weighting and distribute them in the right kind of way to deliver reduced carbon, but still maintain that impact. And finally, where it gets really exciting, to demonstrate this and prove the results, we had to craft an industry-first measurement methodology to prove the impact on sales. So, like any good measurement test, you've got to start with a rigorous test and control methodology. So we work with our partner, Circana. Circana are industry leaders in the handling of supermarket and retail transactions, so understanding sales in stores and what the impact is. So working with Circana, we mapped out regions of the UK where we could use as our test and control regions. And we had to ensure they were like for like. So that is mapping stores where the product is sold, where historic sales are the same, where in-store positioning is the same, the category is selling the same, and local behaviors are the same, and there's no promotional activity impacting things locally to set up our baseline. We identified 3 regions where that was the case. One of them acts as our control, so no media from us, to ensure that those sales are not impacted by our campaign. That's our baseline. And then the 2 others, we distributed the campaign with identical targeting, so the same valuable, organically carbon-reduced precise targeting, where we identified in one region what we agreed with Heineken was what we'd call BAU formats. So the typical format split that we'd be looking at, the usual formats. That is some carbon reduction in there, of course. And another test region where we went further with the carbon reduction. This was Heineken trusting us to take things a little bit further and curate down to a lower level of carbon in that particular region. The purpose here was to test what was the impact when we took further carbon out. Did we take out any impact? What was the impact on sales likely to be? And thankfully, the results speak for themselves. So overall, we saw strong results. So the approach worked. The targeting approach worked, and natural carbon reduction working with us to distribute this campaign was overall strong. There was ROI across the whole campaign. But the really key finding was that in that region, that test region where we'd reduced carbon by a further 26%, and this is, we're talking here about hundreds of kilos, if not thousands of kilos of potential carbon coming out through reduced energy use. The ROI was nearly three pounds per pound of ad spend, so not insignificant at all. And it was 7% higher than the other region, which was BAU. So still strong, but even stronger, and significantly above the industry benchmarks for cider. The overall finding, really the conclusion, Inches got an even higher ROI where they'd reduce even more carbon. This was us proving what we set out to prove. Sustainability wasn't sacrifice. Reducing carbon didn't mean reducing results. It actually meant smarter media. It impacted results even more positively. So our aim as a business is, like I said at the outset, we want this to be a blueprint for future media planning decisions. It isn't enough for us to just do this over and over. We're encouraging the industry to make this same change. We want this to be a benchmark for success. Ultimately, we'd like carbon reduction to be in that same conversation along with format decisions and audience and planning for KPI. We should be planning for carbon reduction across everything that we do. Because reducing carbon isn't just the ethically right decision, it is a commercially impactful decision. And I'll close with, like Dan said, post seeing all of these great results, those results being carbon optimized and delivering even more results have been a game changer for Heineken, and they can continue making those decisions. So our call out to particularly those of you who are in buying decisions and have buying power, be bold and make similar decisions in your campaigns. And if you'd like to learn how to do it with us, please come and talk to me or get in touch. Thank you very much.